Alright, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me better in this video. I didn't realize, I need the mic to be way closer to me. Alright, hopefully this makes the mic much louder because it doesn't have a volume signal. Anyway, so as I've been going through this journey of pet fostering, I have already had, this is my third group of fosters, and one thing I became really concerned about is I know that eventually all these cats are going to get adopted out to new families, and it's going to be great for them. I know that right now I can't afford, like, the vet bills and whatnot that would come with, like, keeping a cat full time, like full on adopting a cat. So fostering is, what I can do right now. Plus I do like, the rotating cats coming through my house. So I actually like, this form of pet care that I'm doing. So don't feel bad for me, because I actually like how things are right now. But as I've been taking care of these cats, I've been giving them cuddles, food, water, litter, particularly cuddles. I worry that they I worried that they would feel betrayed once, they got adopted out. Like, what happened to the person who'd been taking care of me for the last while? Like, who, got me out of that really crowded, scary shelter, and now, there's this new person. Was I betrayed? Like, that's, in my head, what I felt like the cats were thinking, And so I looked into it, and here's what I found, okay? We project our feelings onto cats. Like, we project how us humans interpret situations onto cats. But really, cats, they just want to, feel loved and secured. And they're golden. They're happy, Cats don't feel betrayal. Like, whether that's too complex of a feeling for a cat to feel, or just, like, not how cats think. Because, again, like, they just want to feel secure, and, they'll give the love that they're being given by a human, so they don't feel betrayed if you aren't around anymore. Like, once, the minute that they are, leaving your house and being thrown into a new place, they are going to miss the environment that they just left, as they're going into this new environment. But assuming the new, forever home that you adopted the cat out to can be trusted, they're golden, theoretically. Like, they'll be loved on, and they'll be cared for, and you won't have anything to worry about once they get past the, getting to know the new foster. I keep saying foster. Getting to know the new forever home. Like, I just this week got 2 new fosters, and I'm actually looking on notes on my computer, and this is actually going a lot easier to read notes on the computer. So they may or may not be, walking around in the background. You may or may not see them. There are 2 of them. They're a bonded pair. They took, like, they were at a temporary foster before they were at my house. The temporary foster, she was saying that, they took a week to get comfortable in, the environment at this person's house. But with me, they only took like a day, like within that night that I, received them at my house, they were like, um, the shelter that I work with, like they are kind enough that they like make sure that if you're like me, don't have a car, like they'll find somebody who can like drive the cats to you. Like in my experience, it's been the person who the cat was previously with, so it's very kind of them. But yeah, like um these cats that I have right now, they adjusted very, very quickly to my place. Like they are happy, just walking around. There are toys everywhere. They love like playing with the toys themselves. It's kind of weird because when I try to like, play with them with the toys, they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" They're like not interested. So they like playing with their toys, so that's cool. It's like they love cuddling with me. That's what they want me for, to refill their food and to cuddle. Okay, that's where I come in. Anything else, they'll entertain themselves. They'll play fight each other. That's how it is with these cats. Every cat is different. And Benjamin, my last cat, was the same. He got adopted at an adoption event. It was great. So, yeah. Um, Basically, as sad as it sounds, your cat will forget you. I don't know about dogs. This is mainly going to be about cats, but your cat's going to forget you. Within 18 months, like, that is how long their memory lasts. And they're going to forget your scent. Your scent is how they memorize you. And within 18 months, they're going to forget that scent. So they're going to eventually forget you. They even, depending on how old they are, if they're like an adult cat, they probably don't remember their mom and how their mom smelled, and like they probably don't remember their mom's face. So, they just don't remember those things like we would. Um, like their biological cat mom. Um, and some cats, like, you may pick them up as fosters, and, like, sometimes, like, with some cats, the shelter wants you to try to socialize them. And with some cats, that'll be successful. There are ways to, like, slowly, like, socialize them, one way or another. But some cats just never, really adapt to that um, home life, that domesticated pet life. They don't adapt to that. So they become something called work cats, which is something I've never heard of, but it's kind of like how, some dogs are trained to be, service dogs for like blind people or, people dealing with any epileptic conditions. Um, you'll have cats who instead work in like warehouses or farms, like doing different tasks, and that's their speed. That's what they like to do, and it's really interesting, But for some cats, that's what they'll end up, wanting to do, um, rather than being domesticated. Um, some cats are so just like unsociable. They don't ever like being pet. I knew someone personally who had a cat who just did not want you to pet him, whether it was trauma or just like, he does not want pets. That's just not his thing. You know, like some cats just are like that. They may or may not want to live at home, but they don't want to be pet. I haven't had that experience as a foster. I hope I don't. I love to be able to pet my cats. Um, so yeah, uh, and even then, like the person I knew who had the cat who, didn't allow him to pet him, and other people I've heard of who've had cats like that, they still love their cats, you know? They still love having them around, or, you know, you would rehome them, I guess. But, like, they just, hopefully you know, learn about the cat enough that you know, like, oh, this cat doesn't want to be pet. Are you okay with having a cat like that? Yeah? Okay, you know, like, but yeah, some cats, just in general, you know, don't even want, you know, the love that, you know, you may be looking to give cats as a foster. So the whole, like, passing them to, you know, their forever home becomes even more easy in the sense that, you know, they may not have, like, fully attached to you socially because they didn't really like pets from you, or, you know, like, it's just easier for them to move on, you know, because they, you know, you weren't, like, cuddling them, or just in general, like, they don't really attach to people like that. So there's that consideration too. um like, you have people who foster for a while who've had, like, their cats, like, adopted out by, like, their friends, and they'll come visit their friends, and sometimes, like, all but one cat don't remember that person. So, you know, you could be in a situation like that where, like, almost none of your cats recognize you, like, when you, if you ever try to visit them. Like, I know when I was taking Benjamin to the adoption event, someone wanted to, the person who was giving me an Uber ride, he was suggesting, oh, maybe you could visit him a bit after, you know, he goes to his new home, you know, like, so he feels, like, comforted. But he may not remember me. He may, you know, he may actually not remember me. But in general, he was always really friendly and easy, you know, he easily warmed up to people. So doesn't really matter, but he wouldn't be as close to me as he was before. But, you know, he's with a good family now. So, you know, he's with chill people who, you know, are looking to be like cat and dog parents. You know, one of them really likes cats, the other one really likes dogs. And so he's gonna be loved. But yeah, cats will adjust fast at homes that give them a lot of love. And as a foster, you know, while you're waiting to find that good home for the cat, you are teaching the cats to, you're teaching the cats what a safe, comfortable, loving home is like. You know, kind of like a foster child. Like, you know, what, for whatever reason that you are fostering a kid, you know, like, whatever situation they're in, like, you as a foster parent are giving them a good home. You're role modeling what a safe, comfortable environment should look like, and that will allow them to appreciate and essentially expect, you know, that kind of, like, environment, and reciprocate when they are, you know, being loved by people. You know, they know, like, oh, this is how humans show affection. You know, it might look different than, like, how my mom or siblings, you know, or other cats show me affection, but, like, this is how humans, you know, are loving and comforting, you know. So it helps them really get used to that, you know. And if they have any enjoyment in being, like, a domesticated pet, you know, they're gonna warm up to that feeling really fast and enjoy being loved by humans. Um, yeah, and also think of the alternative if you've ever felt guilty about, you know, showing foster cats love. Would you rather, think about, like, think of it from the cat's perspective? Would you rather, you know, spend a few more weeks in a loud, busy shelter where you may not get as much attention, Or would you rather spend that time in a house that's, or an apartment that's like relatively peaceful, relatively quiet compared to a shelter, less bustling, like less new faces passing by and leaving, you know, less, loud dogs barking, or, in most cases, no dogs barking, and you're just, in this, like smaller, cozier place. Even if you change cozy places, I'm sure, most humans would rather spend more time in a generally cozy place as opposed to, spending more time in a shelter. Um, so that, thinking of those alternatives that way can help if you're feeling that guilt about like showing any foster animal love before they go to a new place. Um, yeah. So think of yourself too as like a pet sitter. Like, you really are just like, again, giving the pet a safe, loving place until they, or you could think of it like return to like their forever home, and be at a place where, they won't be leaving um, anytime soon. And also, it kind of gets them used to, the idea that sometimes if the people at their forever home go on vacation, sometimes a different person will be watching them, and they won't be so scared, you know, because this time, like, they'll actually go back to their forever home, you know. Um, in some cases, some fosters take pets in to like nurse them back to health, like while the pet is healing from some condition. So that's all the more, being in that situation is all the more reason to give a cat love and be like, you're going through a difficult thing, let me like hug you and cuddle you and make sure you're eating well while you're going through this bad thing, while it heals, and it'll help the healing process go quicker. I don't know if they've done research on cats about, if like love helps them heal quicker. I'm sure it would, I'm sure it would play a good part, a positive part in that, but yeah. And also, like, if you had a loved one who, let's say they were, let's say their car broke down somewhere, and, like, you or somebody else was, like, going over to pick them up, but it was going to take you a while because they were, like, going on a road trip, so they're a bit far out. Would you rather them just sit on the side of the road, for hours on end waiting for you? Or, would you be okay if, like, somebody invited them, maybe they're a stranger, but if someone invited them, assuming they were a safe person, like, to their place, so that the person could, like, warm up and, be safe, like, while you get over there, like, assuming they're not crazy, which statistically is unlikely, like, there are creepy people out there, but it's unlikely, you know, basically it's the same for like foster cats. Like, they're gonna prefer to like stay in as comfortable of an environment as possible. Like, it's kind of like when I was in the hospital, and like, it was always going to be a crappy experience because I'm getting a surgery, and like, there's going to be pain after the surgery because they cut some part of my body to do the surgery. And I can tell you, the surgeries I had in Texas were an overall better experience than what I had in Maryland, because in Texas, I, like, the chef at the hospital was like a former Michelin star restaurant owning chef, And like just in general, like the doctors didn't feel so cold. Like the nurses, who were, checking on you and doing all the different things that you needed, like they didn't feel so cold. Like there was a much better like vibe, as the kids say, at the hospital. Like you would rather be in a more caring place if you're going to have to go through something shitty. There have definitely been parts of my life where it's like it felt like, well, of course it all feels shitty right now. I'm going through something shitty, but it's kind of it can be kind of hard to imagine, like, even though I was moving through a shitty situation, I didn't have to be in such a like shitty, I didn't have to go through like a shitty path. Like it would have been nice if, you know, it was more of a smooth, comfortable ride, if like I had, more support, going through the things I did. Like I don't feel any more proud that I went through shit, you know, by myself. If anything, it makes me feel worse. So if you can go through any experience in general and just be like comfortable, man, I feel like I'm like going on a tangent, but if you could go through anything and like go through a difficult thing in a way where like you are comforted, you're supported, of course that's going to be better than, like dealing with it the hard way. So for cats, it's like, of course it's going to be better for them to be in a comfortable foster home, and have a kind of bittersweet transition, as opposed to going through, more shelter experience and, feelings of neglect and feeling invisible, in a shelter, like not getting love, even if they may not feel like neglect per se. The cats, could be being loved by a human all that time that they're waiting to be adopted. They don't have to stay in a rough shelter, even if it's a good shelter like the one I work with. Like, you know, like it's better, cats are better off. Like they, even though they know they do a good job at the shelter making the pets comfortable, they still really push for these pets to be in foster homes so they're even more comfortable. And also, one really beautiful kind of analogy I saw was like, again, if you're, fostering kids and, think about it from a kid's point of view, like wouldn't it be amazing, as they said, if the hardest thing a kid, going through the foster system had to deal with was having too many people care about the kid, love the kid, and the only people who, got hurt in the situation, in the process of the kid going through the foster system, where the foster families, going through the bittersweet, like saying goodbye to the kid once they found someone willing to adopt the kid. Like, wouldn't that be great if we lived in a world like that? I thought that was a really beautiful way to think about this. All right, let's see. All right, cats. The other thing is, cats aren't like birds. They don't imprint on the first person or, thing that they see. I kind of forgot that birds imprinted. My brain that read Twilight, who knows how long ago, only thought about wolves when it came to like imprinting. I'm not sure how many animals imprint, but clearly there are animals like cats who don't imprint on like their moms, or, like their biological moms or whatever. All right. And also, as a foster, like the alternative to like giving pets up for adoption would be literally becoming a cat lady and, keeping all the pets that you volunteer to foster. And it's like sometimes I think they would be kind of funny or cool to like have that going on in my own house, like have any cat, that is okay living with other cats chill here. But then they would just feel like they're living in a shelter, and being at my place wouldn't be any different, like and I'm not even talking about like adopting all the cats. I just mean like, fostering as many cats as I could. But, it's better to give cats, one or two cats a great experience than trying to be there for a bunch of cats, giving them a subpar experience. And, a lot of fosters too, they get thanked down the line by the people who adopt, the pets they foster, for, you know, um, making the pets that they fostered so like well adjusted because they gave the pets so much love. You shouldn't spoil them. You can take it too far. You could spoil them to the point where they expect like lots of toys, and you know only will eat like one specific brand of food, and they expect cuddles like 24/7. Like, you can take it too far. You have to be careful not to overly spoil them like that, because that's setting too high expectations for the next home, for their forever home. But the love we give animals, you know that's what they need. That's what they need to um, go far in this world. Like, that's what they need to, be able to adjust well and quickly to their forever home, and be able to live the rest of their lives, like enjoying and really appreciating and taking advantage of being in a warm, cozy, safe environment. Um, and not, be like relying on their like hunter skills the whole time. Like, oh my gosh, do I have food? Do I have safety? I don't feel safe. Like, you're, really introducing that feeling of safety, love, comfort, and belonging, so that their lives can be easier, less stressful. So, as a fellow foster, thank you for fostering if you choose to foster. Also, hi. Can't find my mouse right now. Okay, found my mouse. Time to end the video.